and welcome history buffs. My name is Nick Hodges, and today we'll be looking at how one man created the largest fast food franchise in history, McDonald's. In 1940, Richard and Maurice McDonald, better known as Dick and Mac, created a new style of restaurant in San Bernardino, California. It was one where its food could be made in 30 seconds, not 30 minutes. They wanted a steady flow of people coming in and out of the restaurant and not hanging around and limiting the number of potential customers. McDonald's was their prototype, and it was wildly successful. Initially, the brothers tried franchising for themselves, but it didn't work out for various reasons. Ultimately, they were content with their profitable little business. That was until a chance encounter with a milkshake machine salesman that changed everything. The man who became the founder of the McDonald's Corporation was Ray Kroc, a relatively successful but small-time salesman from Chicago who saw something special in how the brothers ran their restaurant. Seemingly over the hill at 52 years old, Ray Kroc transformed McDonald's from a small-town restaurant into a franchise corporation which today has over 37,000 restaurants in 120 countries worldwide. This is the story of how Ray Kroc met the McDonald's brothers, and in this review we'll be looking at how historically accurate the movie is to the real events by comparing it to the words of Ray Kroc, the McDonald's brothers, and answer the big question: just how did Ray Kroc revolutionize American fast food forever? This is The Founder. Before Ray Kroc ever called himself the founder, he was a salesman. He had a long career selling paper cups and multi-mixers, machines that can mass-produce milkshakes, and his latest hard sell was a 5-spindled milkshake machine that promised to produce more milkshakes at once. Prior to this, drugstore soda fountains and milkshake bars would use single-spindled machines, limiting the number of customers they could serve at any given time. And on one day in 1954, Ray heard from his secretary, June Martino, that a store out in San Bernardino called McDonald's wanted 8 multi-mixers. That's 40 milkshakes per use, which sounded too good to be true. Kroc was having little success persuading store owners that they needed the multi-mixer over the single-spindled machines. So to hear that a store out west ordered so many must have been a fluke. In his mind, who could possibly need that many machines? How many customers must they be serving at a time? Kroc had to know. His curiosity got the better of him, and he drove out to San Bernardino to find out himself. When Ray pulled up to the building, he wasn't initially impressed. In his autobiography, Grinding It Out, The Making of McDonald's, he writes, "There was a smallish octagonal building, a very humble sort of architecture situated on a corner lot about 200 feet square. It was a typical, ordinary-looking drive-in. Then the cars began to arrive, and the line started to form. Soon the parking lot was full, and people were marching up to the windows and back to their cars with bags full of hamburgers. 8 multi-mixers churning away at one time began to seem a lot less far-fetched in light of this steady procession of customers lockstepping to the windows." He spoke with the people in line for burgers, and they marveled how their local McDonald's could offer a hamburger for 15 cents without needing to wait around or tip car hops. Ray Kroc was intrigued. He introduced himself to the restaurant's owners, Dick and Mac McDonald, as the man who sold them the multi-mixers, and invited the brothers out for dinner to hear their story. The first ever McDonald's restaurant was a barbecue joint. It opened in 1940 at the corner of 14th and E Street in San Bernardino, California. Like many other restaurants at the time, it used car hops to take orders and deliver food from the kitchens. But the process was slow. By the late 1940s, Dick and Mac re-evaluated their situation. As Ray Kroc later put it, they were running hard just to stay in one place. So the McDonald's brothers took a closer look at what was selling the most.
So one day Dick has a realization. He sees that the bulk of our sales are in only 3 items: hamburgers, french fries, soft drinks.
87%.
So we say to ourselves, let's focus on what sells, and that's exactly what we do.
The brothers briefly shut down for renovations, which was a huge gamble, especially closing what was a popular restaurant to try something radically different. When they reopened, they only sold what the people wanted: burgers, fries, soda, and milkshakes. It wasn't initially successful, as people weren't accustomed to having to get out of their car, walk up to the window, and order themselves, but it eventually took off. The success of the operation was due to Dick and Mac's speedy system, an idea they created themselves to speed up the time it takes to produce burgers.
Orders ready in 30 seconds, not 30 minutes.
Using homemade machines, a carefully structured floor plan, and good old-fashioned ingenuity, they were able to create a system that turned cooking into an assembly line process. Every employee had a job, and he'd do it with precision and focus. It was like a choreographed dance, and the end result of the performance was an instant crisp and consistent meal. It was here that Ray Kroc was inspired. As a lifelong salesman, he prided himself knowing when to take a chance on a product, and in the McDonald's Speedy system, he saw opportunity. Ray Kroc knew the brothers were onto something, and he couldn't pass this up. Kroc woke up the next morning, went back to the brothers, and pitched an idea. And I quote, "I've been in the kitchens of a lot of restaurants and drive-ins selling multi-mixes around the country, and I have never seen anything to equal the potential of this place of yours. Why don't you open a series of units like this? It would be a goldmine for you and for me too, because everyone would boost my multi-mixer sales. What do you say?" Now, while the film is pretty accurate in its portrayal of Ray Kroc and the McDonald's brothers, there are some clear inconsistencies between what the film shows the audience, how Ray Kroc remembers it, and what really happened. In his autobiography, Kroc makes it seem as if the McDonald's brothers weren't interested in franchising at all. He notes that the brothers just wanted to retire peacefully, and even if they were interested, they had nobody in line to take over and set up a series of franchises. Ray Kroc offers his name, and his journey as the head of the McDonald's Corporation begins. The movie, though, sets it up differently. According to the film, Ray Kroc continually pesters the brothers about opening new locations.
Franchise. 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 Franchise.
We already tried. 2 words. Quality control. It's almost impossible to enforce standards from afar.
Places were a mess. Filthy kitchens, inconsistent menus.
Sacramento was selling burritos.
To watch your precious creation be mismanaged like that.
So you put somebody in charge of supervising.
We did.
So what happened?
He obviously didn't do a great job.
So you hire someone else. You get somebody better.
Our energies are better spent making this place the best it can possibly be.
It's better to have one great restaurant than 50 mediocre ones.
Yeah. I still think you hire the right guy.
Ray, we're not interested.
This is a bit closer to the truth. Despite what Dick says in the film, the brothers were interested because they had already set up McDonald's franchises. Sources vary in how many restaurants they opened. It was at least 6, but likely closer to 8. The second store the McDonald brothers opened was in Phoenix, Arizona. It was here they debuted a new architectural design that would stick around until Ray Kroc took total control of the company. Neon arches, one on either side of the building. Its intention was to stand out from the crowd, and it worked. Ray Kroc wasn't too impressed with the style, but he couldn't deny the brothers their success. A third store soon opened up in Downey, California. To say that the McDonald brothers were not interested in franchising, or that they weren't the founders of the McDonald's that we know today, is a falsehood. One of the most problematic things about the McDonald's origin story is how they see Ray Kroc as the founder. Ray Kroc called himself that, and the title of the film takes a hit at his ego. In an interview about the film, director John Lee Hancock is asked about this hypocrisy.
The title of the movie, you're being a little cheeky.
It's intentionally misleading, I would say. What's your definition of a founder? Is it somebody who has the idea or someone who expands the idea?
Do you think by calling himself the founder, he was perpetuating a falsehood, or is that how he saw himself?
I think he probably would argue that the latter, but I think that probably was the former. I mean, from the way I look at it is, he was just kind of, if nobody ever talked about the McDonald's brothers, that would have been fine with him.
Now this is getting closer to the truth. The McDonald's brothers invented the Speedy system and created a small franchise chain, whereas Ray Kroc talked them into expanding even further with his help and connections in Chicago. So was Ray Kroc the founder? No, he didn't found the McDonald's name, Speedy system, or even the first franchise. But this didn't stop him from calling his first location in Des Plaines, Illinois, the first McDonald's store. He called himself the founder and said that McDonald's was born with his Des Plaines store, despite knowing full well that wasn't the case. Many years later, after Ray Kroc died, McDonald's chairman Fred Turner had this to say in 1991. "This founder business has become an issue. It's embarrassing for the system, quite frankly. It's embarrassing and it's awkward. There ought to be enough credit to go around. The McDonald's brothers are founders. They founded the concept. Ray Kroc founded the company that developed the concept into the largest food service organization in the world." So clearly the assertion that Ray Kroc was the first to franchise McDonald's is wrong. So why is he so famous? Was it just sheer ego that propelled him to be recognized as the founder of McDonald's? Well, not quite. While he certainly suffers from narcissism, Ray Kroc was able to create a successful franchise, more successful than the McDonald's brothers. Here was Dick and Mac's problem. They wanted to create McDonald's clones, speedy systems in every restaurant pumping out the same product with speed and consistency, but it didn't work for them. As they said in the film, one place was selling burritos. This wasn't what the brothers had in mind when they opened up their limited menu restaurant in 1948. So this begs the question, what did Ray Kroc do differently that made his franchising so successful? And that, my friends, leads us to Hamburger University. Ray Kroc made it his mission in life to sell burgers, and by the time he finished writing his autobiography in 1976, there were 4,177 McDonald's restaurants in the US and 21 other countries, and they had exceeded $3 billion in sales. Ray Kroc believed that his success was simply because he knew what Americans wanted.
The American public are basically beef-eating people, and it wears well. It is not, it's not spiced. You can add salt and pepper and ketchup and condiments and things of that kind. And I've lived quite a number of years, and I know what people like, and they happen to like hamburgers. And I can't give them everything they like, but this one thing I sure can give.
Even from the start, Ray Kroc was so confident of the American public's appetite for burgers and fries that he banked his entire life savings, his crumbling marriage, and the mortgage of his house on McDonald's being a success. But not even he could have predicted that the legacy of his future empire wouldn't be built on burgers alone. At first, Ray Kroc was thinking small time. He built his first McDonald's franchise in Des Plaines and then slowly started to expand from there. He got his friends from the country club to buy in, and they built successful franchises throughout the Midwest. But in order to get the rights to franchise this way, he signed a contract with the McDonald brothers. In this contract, Ray Kroc was limited by two things. First, he could not make any changes to the restaurant, architecture of the building, speedy system, or menu without consulting the brothers and getting their agreement in writing first. Second, he earned only 1.9% from the gross profits of all the franchises, but 0.5% of that went to the McDonald's brothers, and he quickly learned that the 1.4% was enough to break even, but not get rich. Now, initially, he wasn't thinking of opening McDonald's restaurants in order to have the best burger joint in town. He was thinking of his multi-mixer, the invention that brought him out to San Bernardino in the first place. His logic was that the more McDonald's stores he opened, the more multi-mixers he could supply them with. He even said as much in his autobiography, and I quote, "I've often been asked why I simply didn't copy the McDonald brothers' plan. They showed me the whole thing and it would have been an easy matter, seemingly to pattern a restaurant after theirs. Truthfully, the idea never crossed my mind. I saw it through the eyes of a salesman. Remember, I was thinking more about prospective multi-mixer sales than hamburgers at that point. Then there was the name. I had a strong, intuitive sense that the name McDonald's was exactly right, and I couldn't have taken the name." Things changed when he met Harry Sonneborn in 1955. The film has us believe that he ran into him at the bank, but that's not what happened. Harry Sonneborn was the vice president of Tasty Freeze, a soft-serve fast food ice cream parlor. He had previously bought multi-mixers from Ray Kroc, so they were already acquaintances. Sonneborn quit his job, sold his stock, and Ray Kroc hired him. With the two of them working together, they devised a way for Ray's franchising company to make even more money. And that's when they formed the Franchise Realty Corporation. What this company did differently was to take a more direct role in developing McDonald's restaurants. McDonald's would choose the location and then convince the property owner to lease or sell McDonald's the land. Once the restaurant was up and running, the franchisees paid McDonald's a monthly fee that would pay off the mortgage and other running costs plus extra to give the McDonald's Corporation a greater profit. And nowadays, this is how most fast food franchises make their money. The benefit of doing it this way means that the rent and royalties from the franchisees is a much more stable and predictable income. McDonald's can leverage its position on the market to negotiate deals because it controls the land and long-term leases. It's almost like a subscription service, where the subscriber, or in this case the franchisee, pays a fixed amount each month to be able to run a McDonald's restaurant. McDonald's charges more than it needs and profits immensely, but the franchisees don't mind the markup because McDonald's is so popular, so they know that they're going to make tons of money anyway, so it's a win-win. In addition to this new model of franchising, Kroc was still getting 1.4% of the gross sales. With this flood of new income, he could then put money back into the system to open even more restaurants. The result was a massive expansion of McDonald's profits within a few short years.
You don't seem to realize what business you're in. You're not in the burger business. You're in the real estate business. Land. That's where the money is.
This plan worked tremendously. Between Kroc's ambition and Harry's financial planning, they created what would eventually become the McDonald's Corporation. But there was still something else Ray Kroc needed to make his vision of McDonald's a reality. He needed a way to standardize each and every restaurant. In the film, once Kroc encourages his golfing friends to open up a McDonald's, he drops by to do some quality control. What he finds disgusts him. New menu items, rubbish everywhere, people hanging out and clogging up the car park so new customers can't get in.
I was by your restaurant today, too.
Yeah, what about it?
What about it? You got corn on the cob, you got fried chicken.
People love fried chicken.
Do they? Well, then let them go somewhere where they serve fried chicken.
Kroc was starting to see the same problem the McDonald's brothers had when they started franchising. There was no way to supervise quality control from a distance. This is what disenchanted the McDonald's brothers in their franchising venture, and was threatening to undo Ray Kroc's plans as well, so he came up with a plan. In 1961, in the basement of what Kroc wanted to be a new McDonald's store, was the first classroom for Hamburger University.
Good morning, class.
Good morning, Ronald.
The idea was the brainchild of Ray Kroc, one of his longtime employees, Fred Turner. Fred Turner first met Ray Kroc when he wanted to open a McDonald's franchise. Although that didn't pan out, he did go to work for Kroc at the Des Plaines store and quickly rose through the ranks to work with Kroc at the Franchise Realty Corporation, later renamed the McDonald's Corporation. Fred Turner went on to become the chairman and CEO of McDonald's after Ray Kroc left the post. The two of them solved the problem of consistency by creating Hamburger University, an intense training course for all McDonald's franchisees. It taught operators and managers Ray Kroc's core values: quality, service, cleanliness, and value, or as he said time and time again, QSC and V. Ray Kroc later wrote, "We agreed we wanted McDonald's to be more than just a name used by very different people. We wanted to build a restaurant system that would be known for food of consistently high quality and uniform methods of preparation." And that system worked. Operators and managers were trained with Kroc's core principles, and they went out into the field to operate McDonald's under exacting standards. Failure to live up to the McDonald's system, and they lose their franchise. This encouraged them to stick with the mantra of QSC and V and run the restaurant exactly as Kroc intended. If they did all that, then their restaurant would be a success. And this is where Kroc excelled the most. Not in knowing that Americans like burgers, not in his salesmanship, not in convincing Dick and Mac to let him open up franchises, but because he built a successful franchising operation based on standardization. This explains why we can go anywhere in the world and expect the same quality of food in a McDonald's restaurant. The co-writer of Ray Kroc's biography said it best in the afterword, and I quote, "His greatest skill was, as an instinctive leader who brought entrepreneurs into a structure that both forced them to conform to high standards of quality and service and freed them to operate as independent business people. These franchisees form a system that by 1987 represented more than 2,000 independent companies. The McDonald's system developed a business momentum that accelerated steadily during its founder's lifetime and continued gaining velocity after his passing. This is why Ray Kroc called himself the founder, and why everyone was so quick to agree. He named his Des Plaines store McDonald's No. 1 because he saw it as a separate entity from what he saw in San Bernardino.
The nerve of this guy.
What?
Guess what he's calling his Des Plaines store? McDonald's No. 1.
Then, what are we then?
Could his head get any bigger?
Yes, it could, and it did, because whilst he succeeded in business, it was also costing him his personal relationships. He married his first wife Ethel in 1922, but their marriage was strained by Kroc's insistence on throwing everything he had, including time and money, into McDonald's. He freely admitted that they became estranged, and when someone better came along, he divorced Ethel, and that someone was Joanne. Ray Kroc first met Joanne in St. Louis, Missouri at a restaurant. She was the pianist and he fell in love at first sight. Now, whilst the movie makes it look like her husband was there when it happened, in real life the husband was at home. Joanne and her then husband decided to open a McDonald's restaurant after hearing how successful the business was. Both Ray and Joanne were married, but that didn't stop Kroc. He quickly divorced Ethel and encouraged Joanne to do the same. Unfortunately for Kroc, she didn't leave her husband. Yet.
Good things come to those who wait.
Kroc did eventually persuade Joanne to leave her husband and marry him in 1969, but before Joanne, he had also married another woman, Jane Dobbins Green, and just listen to what he had to say about his second wife, Jane. "Some people are bachelors by nature. I am not. I guess I need to be married to feel complete. I was content with Jane, she was a fine lady, but it was Joanne I loved, and knew I always would." And check this out. The moment he heard Joanne was reconsidering divorcing her husband to be with him, Ray divorced Jane almost immediately. Now, we never see any of this in the movie. Not sure if it was because of pacing or some other reason, but Jane Dobbins Green is omitted entirely. Instead, Ray goes right from Ethel to Joanne. And the way he goes about it is cold. All he's willing to leave her is the car, the house, and some insurance policies. But despite McDonald's costing them the marriage, Kroc refuses to share any part of it with her.
I would sooner die than give her one share of stock in McDonald's.
So while the film glazes over his personal life, it does do a good job of showing us his morally dubious side, which extends far past his many wives. With Harry at the helm and a new woman at his side, Ray goes after his next target, the McDonald's brothers themselves. It was around the time when Kroc ditched his wife to be with Joanne that he also decided that he was done dealing with the McDonald's brothers. At first, he had no issue with his contract. He was happy to sign up for 1.4%, having to check in with the brothers and get a written agreement before making any changes, but very quickly he grew tired of this. In the film, there's a scene where Joanne comes up with a solution to save money on freezer costs for McDonald's restaurants. Instead of buying tons of ice cream for the milkshakes, she finds a powder that supposedly works just as well, but doesn't require refrigeration. Ray is predictably over the moon about this, as the freezer running costs are angering his franchisees. But when he pitches the idea to the McDonald's brothers, they're almost offended.
Ray, we have no interest in a milkshake that contains no milk. Why don't we add sawdust to the hamburgers while we're at it? Frozen French fries.
You don't want to save a bundle.
Not like that.
We're talking about the same great taste while boosting the bottom line.
It's called a milkshake, Ray.
Unfortunately, this didn't happen in real life. There was no such product called Instamix like we see in the film, although McDonald's did later sell powdered shakes in the late 60s and early 70s, but this takes place after the setting of the movie. The filmmakers tweaked the timeline a little bit to show us Dick and Mac's reaction to the eventual decline in quality. Subtle changes like these would even see the rise of far-out conspiracy theories about what's actually in a McDonald's burger. The theory goes that allegedly the beef is bought from a company called 100% Beef so they could legally put that on their packaging, which is ridiculous of course, but perhaps the shift in milkshake quality encouraged people to start questioning other classic McDonald's items. Regardless, Kroc himself spoke about how he was getting tired of the McDonald brothers. He called them obtuse and unreasonable, but for what it's worth, Dick didn't feel the same way about Ray. In an interview with the Sun Journal on October 1st, 1991, Dick told a reporter that Ray Kroc was impressive, aggressive, but the type to sell anything. He was upset that Ray had called himself the founder, but had no ill will against him. After all, Ray Kroc made the McDonald's name a cultural icon. Ray, though, did, however, swindle the brothers out of their fortune. In the film, we see a phone conversation highlighting the moment when Ray Kroc turned against the McDonald's brothers.
I am through taking marching orders from you. You and your endless parade of no's.
You have a profound misunderstanding of what McDonald's is about.
I have a far greater understanding of McDonald's than you two yokels.
You have a contract.
You know, contracts are like hearts. They're made to be broken.
At an impasse, Ray Kroc decides he needs to buy the brothers out, and he pressures his lawyer to get McDonald's away from Dick and Mac no matter the cost. He even childishly tells them to make the problem go away. Now, this chronology works well for a film, but in real life, it wasn't quite this spontaneous. According to Kroc's own biography, he negotiated a $2.7 million contract to buy the McDonald brothers out of their shares of the enterprise. This deal was to give each brother $1 million after taxes. As Dick told Ray, that amount was for the rights, the McDonald's name, the San Bernardino store, and everything. Ray Kroc also did a handshake deal, promising them an annual 1% royalties, but he never paid them a dime after forking over the $2.7 million settlement. At the last minute, though, the brothers decided to keep their San Bernardino store, which they gave to the longtime employees to run. Ray, a proud capitalist who doesn't like to be outdone, decided that since he couldn't take the original McDonald's, he put them out of business. Ray opened up a new McDonald's across the street from the old one, which had changed its name to the Big M shortly after the contract was signed. It didn't take long before Kroc put the brothers' store out of business, or so he says. In an opinion piece posted to Time magazine in 1973, Dick McDonald disputed this assertion and said, Ray Kroc stated that he forced McDonald's from the unit we retained in San Bernardino, California. The facts are that we took the name off the building and removed the arches immediately upon the closing of the sale of our company to Kroc and Associates in December 1961. Ray was also being facetious when he told your reporter that he drove us out of business. My brother and I had retired 2 years previous to the sale and were living in Santa Barbara, California. We had turned the operation of the San Bernardino unit over to a couple of long-time employees of ours who operated the drive-in for 7 years. Ray Kroc was always a great prankster and probably couldn't resist the temptation to needle me. I am sure that he knows that if there had not been any McDonald brothers, he would probably still be selling milkshake machines. So despite wrapping things up nicely for a movie, the truth is that Kroc didn't run them out of business, because they were already done. Even so, now that McDonald's was his, he started to implement the changes he could never make before, such as introducing the fillet of fish in 1965, when a Cincinnati operator was having a hard time getting Catholic customers to dine in on Fridays, traditionally a day when Catholics don't consume meat, or at least burgers. Then in 1968, he oversaw the Big Mac and the hot apple pie, two staples that are still in the menu today. He also changed the architecture of the building, created new uniforms, and opened up an even larger hamburger university. He also got rid of the neon arches on either side of the building and introduced the golden arches we know today. Was it necessary progress? Probably. A company that doesn't change with the times is likely doomed to fail, but it was a fundamental change in the McDonald's Speedy system, and one he could only make once he bought the brothers out. However, we can hardly dispute the results. McDonald's today is the biggest franchise and most popular fast food chain in the world, so Ray Kroc did something right. He made some morally dubious choices along the way and saw himself as something more grandiose than what he was, but he was certainly successful. Unfortunately for Ray Kroc, his success changed him. One of his business partners who had been with him from his multi-mixer days, June Martino, was sidelined along the way. In his autobiography, he just casually writes that at some point he had to ask June Martino to retire, although he gives no legitimate reason why. He called her part of the old regime, and once Harry Sonneborn resigned in 1967 due to ongoing disputes with Ray Kroc, it seems the founder just wanted to clean up house, regardless of loyalties. Fred Turner, though, got to stick around. Ray Kroc worked for McDonald's until his death in early 1984. Whilst he wasn't running the company, he was still helping out in whatever capacity he could. He was certainly dedicated to the company he created, and his legacy lives on in the restaurants that are still around today. Overall, the film is a relatively accurate portrayal of the man who considered himself the founder of McDonald's. It's only glossed over a few parts of his life, and in dealing with the McDonald's brothers, but managed to portray just how his perseverance as a businessman made all the difference, even if it did fundamentally change him as he became successful.
Now, I know what you're thinking. How the heck does a 52-year-old, over-the-hill milkshake machine salesman build a fast food empire with 1,600 restaurants in 50 states, 5 foreign countries, with an annual revenue of in the neighborhood of $700 million? One word: persistence.
I'd like to give a shout out to today's sponsor, NordVPN. For the last few years, NordVPN has been one of my most convenient tools in the History Buff's arsenal. I remember when I was working on my review for The Untouchables that I wanted to watch one documentary for my research, The Making of the Mob Chicago, but to my frustration, it wasn't available to rent or buy anywhere online in the UK. Fortunately, NordVPN had that covered. By simply switching to a different router in the United States, I was now free to not only watch that, but any program I liked, whether it be on Amazon Prime, Netflix, or even YouTube. And it's not just the United States. There are 59 countries you could choose from, so ever since then, that's exactly what I've been using NordVPN for. However, it does have other benefits too. You can safely browse the internet and be confident all your data and web activity will be safely encrypted. It even adds that extra layer of security when you're accessing public Wi-Fi. So if any of that sounds appealing, just go over to nordvpn.com/historybuffs and you'll get an exclusive NordVPN deal for a 2-year plan, plus 4 additional months with a huge discount. It's risk-free with NordVPN's 30-day money-back guarantee. That's nordvpn.com/historybuffs. Well, that about wraps it up. My name is Nick Hodges, and thanks for watching History Buffs. And remember, if you like the show, help the channel grow. If you wish to support History Buffs, then you can now do so at Patreon. And as always, let me know in the comment section what you thought about the founder. And of course, what historical movie should I review next? In the meantime, check out the History Buffs Twitter and Facebook pages for new updates. Until then, I'll see you next time.